So I've made a few informational type videos recently, and one of you guys asked me to do one more on intensity, and more specifically how much intensity you need to progress. But before we can know how much intensity we need to understand what intensity even is. And to make it a bit more simple, I'm going to use RPE. So if you aren't familiar with RPE, I'm going to quickly go through it right here. RPE is the primary way powerlifters today use to figure out how hard a set was. We typically use it as reps in reserve. RP10 means all out failure, 0 reps in reserve. RP9 means 1 rep in reserve. RP8 means 2 reps in reserve, and so on and so on. So there's two main things that we want to look out for when gauging how high of an RPE we should want to have. First off is average RPE and peak RPE. Now how you can find your average RPE is just by tracking what your RPE is on each set of your working sets, and over a few weeks track what the average is throughout all of those working sets. Now if you're both tracking your average RPE and your average estimated 1 rep max, or just your max estimated 1 rep max for the week, it's going to be super easy to try and find a correlation between your average RPE and your estimated 1 rep max. So some people will respond better to lower RPEs in general, and some people respond better to higher RPEs in general. And that's basically no way you're going to find out what you respond best to if you don't track it. Now the peak intensity is a factor on its own, however I'm gonna save that for another video since it's a bit more complicated. It can also screw up the average RPE a little bit, but just know that the average RPE is more important and more indicating than the peak intensity. Now there are some ways how you can right now figure out what kind of lifts you should have higher average RPEs on in general. Now there's so many different factors for this, such as age, training age, gender, height, and so many different things. But the most important thing is going to be leverages. If you're super well built for a lift, you can probably handle more volume, more frequency, and higher intensity for it. The simplest way to look at it is if you have short femurs, you're a good build for squat. If you have short arms, you're a good build for bench. And if you have long arms, you're a good build for deadlifts.